episode 12, Injustice, Gods Among Us. It's your boy, Icon, with a DC TV review. Still sick, but I'm here for you, going over some Superman and Lois. And this, let me just say right out the gate. First of all, I have to applaud the team of Superman and Lois for sticking to their guns regarding Lois's cancer. Because usually when we see things like this, the person, like, they'll have cancer for like 2 or 3 episodes, and then once they're in remission, then it gets passed over, then we never hear about it again. Like, the cancer aspect of Lois's journey is pretty much over. But every single episode, literally every single episode this season has started with Lois Lane going through her cancer treatment. And I want to applaud them for actually not letting go of that storyline. Because even now, she's just like, she has a bigger road ahead, and, she doesn't feel the same, and she doesn't, she has to adjust to the new her. So it's just nice to see that, because once Pia died and once Bruno got locked up, they could have easily just moved on from the cancer and never spoke about it again. But now we're here. And we did get the renewal. So praise Raoul. We got the renewal. Superman and Lois will get a season 4. I'll talk more about that during the season finale of season 3. But in this particular episode, Injustice, Lex Luthor is here. And he is here with a bang. He actually just got out of prison. And when he gets out of prison, he basically makes a phone call. And he tells his chauffeur, Otis. We remember Otis from the Supergirl TV show. He tells Otis, he gives Otis an address. And he tells Otis to meet him at this address at this specific time. And then he leaves the prison and just starts walking. More on that later. Because this episode was all about the fact that Jordan is still a grade A, 100% pure T dumbass. So now he's in a situation where he's tired of being reeled in. He's tired of his parents telling him what to do. Like, one thing I will say about the renewal of Superman and Lois, I heard that not all the characters are coming back for the 4th, and which will probably be the 4th and final season. I can name about 3 or 4 people in this particular episode alone that I don't want to see come back based on how they were acting in this particular episode. Jordan, again, because he's the Superboy and people are talking about him, and because Junior won't shut up about the fact that somebody saved his life, Jordan's at the point now where he's searching for that recognition, and he wants to get the glory for the stuff that he's doing. So then when Junior was just like, yeah, this kid in goggles and a hoodie, he saved me and Sarah, and I think, he lives in Smallville, he could be one of us. The kids were just like, goggles, that sounds stupid. And then Jordan's just like, well, but if it's true, isn't that person a total badass? And then Sarah looked at him like, really, dude? And then, then everybody walks away. Sarah goes and talks to her mama, and she's just like, yo, Jordan's out here bragging about how he saved everyone's life. And then Lana's like, oh, honey, that's not okay. She's like, I have to tell the Kents immediately. So Lana goes down to the Kent family, where they were having a conversation with Sam about Jordan, and even talking to Jordan, because Sam had said, he was like, look, he said that the newspaper, the Daily Planet, they're going to post an article about him because Junior went to the Daily Planet and told them what happened. So now they're not going to let it go. They're going to keep digging, they're going to keep searching, and eventually somebody's going to find out. So you got to shut Jordan down. So then, then Lana came in and she was like, yes, you have to shut him down because he's bragging at school about his super exploits and everything. So now his parents, Lois and Clark, they're just like, bro, shut it down. They're just like, you can't, and they said, until this whole thing blows over, turn in your suit and no more saving lives. And he was just like, oh, Dad, but it's not fair. And then he was just like, what's wrong with getting recognition? And he was like, you're not doing it for the recognition. You're doing it to save people's lives and for the greater good. And then he was just like, screw the greater good. What's wrong with getting a little change on the side? And then like they get mad. They take the suit from him. And then, he starts pouting and he goes upstairs. So then the general is just like, yo, you got to reel his ass in, just keep him on the down low before it's too late. Jordan then goes to Sarah's diner, because remember, she works at the diner now. He goes to the diner, and then he's just like, oh, why'd you tell your mom to talk to my parents? And she was like, I didn't do that. My mom did that on her own. And then she was just like, oh, why are you so upset? Or anyway, she's like, it's not my fault. And he was like, it is your fault, because like he said, you're the reason why I'm grounded. And then she was just like, Jordan, I'm trying to rebuild my life, and it seems like you're just trying to bring me down. And he was like, girl, did you just make this shit about you? And and I actually agree with him, because like, if there's one thing Sarah excels at on this program, it is making every single thing about her. Like, she is the queen of doing that. And then the two of them are arguing and everything. And then Jonathan, he's down at the firehouse and he's still getting hazed, by all the fire people. But then that's when Kyle was just like, hey, you knock it off. He was like, yo, we're going to treat this boy like if we treat anybody else. And then everybody's just like, well, he's the new guy. And he's just like, we're going to treat him with respect. Jonathan was like, thanks, Mr. Cushing. And he was like, don't worry about it. He said, you just make sure you set a better example for you and your daddy. And then that's when Jonathan was just like, oh, he said, so you're telling everybody to back off because I'm Superman's son. And then he was talking to Jordan about that, and he was just like, I don't like the fact that I'm being babied at work now because, just because of who my father is. And then that's when Superman came in the room, and he was just like, and here he comes now. And then, he's just like, well, what happened? And he was just like, oh, then that's when Jordan was just like, oh, Jonathan's being treated differently at work because, he's the son of Superman. And then Clark was like, how the fuck is that my fault? You know what I'm saying? But then he ended up going down to talk to Kyle, and he was like, look, he was just like, I appreciate you keeping my secret and everything, but he was like, don't give my son any special treatment. Just treat him like you would treat anybody else. Then Kyle's bitch ass, he took it the wrong way, only because he felt stupid that he had to be spoken to by Superman. He goes to Jonathan. He's like, oh, I'd appreciate it if you got something to say. You keep it in house and say it to my face. And he was just like, bro, he's like, it wasn't even like that. He's like, I was talking to my brother, and my dad just overheard and took it upon himself to come down there. He was like, I didn't tell my dad to come down there. He was just like, yeah, well, it's like, now I'm in my feelings. And he's just like, yo, from now on, we're going to treat you like shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, all bets are off. So now he's upset. So now Jonathan's upset, like Jordan's upset, everybody upset. Jordan's down yelling at Sarah, like Jonathan's at work being yelled at by Mr. Cushing. And then while Lois and Clark are trying to figure out what to do about the Lex Luthor situation, I realized at that moment there was no Irons family in the episode. Chrissy wasn't in the episode either. And then I also remembered we're in Kansas, and because we're still in Kansas, boys and girls, that's when we get the tornado watch. And I was just like, and it's one of those things where like when you're a child and you watch The Wizard of Oz, and then you're just like, oh, we're not in Kansas anymore. Then you see Dorothy being sucked up by a tornado. You forget that shit legitimately happens in Kansas. Like, people literally get sucked up by tornadoes. And it was a nice callback to the Man of Steel movie, because there was a moment where Sam, he pulled over, and then he saw a bunch of people who got out of their cars, and there was an overpass like nearby, and he told everybody, he was just like, oh, good, get to the overpass and lay down. It was reminiscent of the Man of Steel scene where his dad got those people to go under the overpass, and then that's when his dad had died, and he told him, like, don't save me because everybody's watching. This was the complete opposite of that, because when the tornado happened, everybody was running for cover. Everybody in the fire station was running for cover. The mayor's office, still no Irons family. But then Superman shows up to try to, calm down the tornado, and then Jordan showed up. He stole his suit out of his dad's truck. Jordan shows up, and then he ends up trying to help his dad stop the tornado. And then Superman was just like, yo, go home. He was like, I don't need your help. And he's like, no, but I can help you. And then the two of them together, they did stop the tornado. And then after they stopped the tornado, Jordan's dumbass landed right in front of all the people in front of the overpass. And then everybody saw him, and then they were just like, oh my God, it's a new superhero, it's a Superboy. And they were hugging him he allowed him, like, landing in front of them because you want to get some recognition for saving them is one thing. Bro, you allowed them to take your picture. These are complete and total, like, you act like people don't got facial recognition software. Like, you let these people take your picture. Now Superboy is trending worldwide, and Clark looked at him like, I should smack the shit. Like, he was pissed. And then they take him back to the house, and then they see on the news that his footage is all over social media, and he's like, now for sure everybody's gonna know that the Superboy exists come tomorrow morning. And then Clark got mad. He was like, what the hell were you thinking? And then he was just like, but I saved those people. And he was like, that's not the point. And that's when Jordan was like, I'm sick of your rules. I'm sick of you telling me what to do and trying to keep me from being who I really am. And then that's when Superman hit him with the classic parent line that has never worked at any point throughout history. He was like, as long as you, and that's such a white thing to say too. like that's how you get like black people don't say that, like, because black parents will be like, well, if you got a problem with it, get the hell about my, like, they'll tell you to leave. Black parents will legit be like, yo, if you got a problem with the rules, get the fuck out. White people will be like, as long as you live under my house and under my rules, you'll do what I say. And then I was just like, here we go. And then Jordan was just like, oh, but there's stupid rules. And then he tried to walk away, and then Clark grabbed him by the arm and be like, hey, don't walk away from me and your mother. And then Jordan kind of like shook him off, and then that's when you saw the fire in Clark's eye. Clark was like, get your ass upstairs right now and don't come out of your room until I tell you to, and don't you ever do that to me again. And I swear I thought he was gonna smack flames out of him when he that would have, again, I say this again, if that was a black household, like Jordan would have got the taste. Like he would have slapped him so hard that Jordan would have landed in the season finale. So then Jordan goes upstairs and then he's talking to Jonathan. He's just like, well, like I'm being treated in some kind of way too. And then they're both playing video games or whatever. And then remember Lex Luthor? Remember we brought up Lex Luthor. While Lex Luthor was walking, we got some Lex Luthor flashbacks of when he was in prison. It showed him in prison. He had a full-grown hair, like his hair had grown out. And when he found out that he was going to get released, he went to another local prison mate who gets paid for cutting people's hair, and he asked him if he could use his clippers. The guy said no. So then he was just like, listen, he said, I'll give you $5. And then he was just like, nah, you're Lex Luthor. He's like, I want 50 grand if you want my clippers. And then Luthor was like, you should take the deal. Otherwise, you're going to be a bitch, and your boy over here is going to have his legs broken, and the guy over there, he's going to have his teeth broken. I'd rather not do this the hard way, let's do this the easy way. And then the guys ended up kicking Lex Luthor's ass, and they forget that Lex Luthor has resources. So Lex Luthor then, he blackmailed the warden. He has his wife and his kid held hostage. The warden then, because of that, the warden then has the prison guards beat the shit out of the 3 people that beat up Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor got his hands on the clippers. He cut his own hair, so now he's bald again. And then we get a scene where he's sitting in a prison hallway at a table having like Salisbury steak. And then the one guy that was talking shit had his legs broken because he was in a wheelchair. The black dude that was talking that shit, he had his teeth broken because he could barely speak. And then the one guy, the guy who actually owned the clippers, he was being used as Lex's chair, and Lex was sitting on his back while he was cutting his steak. And I said, damn, this guy's a G. I would have loved to have seen Cryer reprise his role as Lex Luthor, but, c'est la vie. This is what we're getting. I'm actually glad. I like the dude's performance. Like, he actually did a good job. So then after making everybody in prison his bitch, he got released from prison, didn't tell anybody he got released from prison, and then like I said earlier in the review, he left the prison and started walking. And he told his driver, Otis, to pick him up at this specific address. Lois and Clark, now it's nighttime. Lois and Clark, they're having a conversation about what to do about Jordan. And then Lois is just like, well, what about Lex Luthor? Did Lex Luthor show up to do the press conference yet? And then Superman was like, no. And then he used his super hearing to find out where Lex was. And he was just like, holy shit, that motherfucker's outside. Lex Luthor walked from the prison to Smallville. Not only did he walk from the prison to Smallville, he walked to the Kent household front porch. And he did it without his super suit. Like, the fact that he did that blew my mind. I was just like, yo, he's really angry. And then he shows up, Lois and Clark come out of the house, and then he was just like, oh, the last time I saw you was 17 years ago. And I'm like, 17 years? Jeez. He's just like, ever since I was in prison, you were pregnant, and now your boys are 16. And he was like, I had a daughter. She was 14 when I got locked up, and now she doesn't want to have anything to do with me, and it's all because of you. And then she was just like, well, what do you want? He's like, I told you I was innocent, damn it. And then she was like, so you want an apology? She's like, I'm sorry. He was like, I don't want an apology. He was like, I want you off the table. He's like, I want your words to stop. He's like, I want you to retire. And then she was just like, first of all, on the specifics of you going to prison, I was wrong and I apologize. But you're still a dirtbag. You're still a horrible person. You've still done horrible things. And although you didn't deserve to go to prison for that specific crime, you still deserve to be in prison because you're a monster. And then he was just like, oh, if you don't quit being a reporter, I'm coming after you and I'm coming after your family. And then that's when Clark was just like, you need to get off our porch right now. And he was just like, okay, fine, my ride's here anyway, but shut it down or else. And then he had his driver literally pick him up at the Kent family household at a specific time at night because he knew he would be there. He knew it would take him that long to walk to their damn house. And I'm like, wow, this guy is a G. And then after that, we get the final scene where Jonathan's talking to his parents about what they're going to do about Lex Luthor. They don't know. And then Lex Luthor and Otis, they go to Bruno Mannheim's house downstairs to the basement because Lex had found out about the Bizarro Superman. When he goes downstairs, he sees the Bizarro Superman. And when he sees the Bizarro Superman, the Superman is down there eating rats and going crazy. And then it killed Otis. And then obviously Lex didn't die, but they're going to use him for something. They're probably going to turn him into Doomsday. They're like, the way, because I saw the coming attractions for the season finale, and the way it made it seem was like they're going to turn Bizarro into Doomsday. But we are going to get a Bizarro versus Superman, one-on-one scene in the final season finale. That was pretty dope, and thank you for tuning in. So now, this is cool. because everybody's coming back. The Irons family's coming back. Chrissy will be back. Everybody will be back. Hopefully Bruno Mannheim shows up. Hopefully Mateo shows up. But it will be interesting to see what Lex Luthor does with the Bizarro Superman and if that trickles into season 4, because we're getting a season 4. Again, I'll talk more about that next week. But share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. What do you think about Lex Luthor? What do you think about this particular episode of Superman and Lois? What do you think about the fact that Clark got put through the ringer in this episode? Like, everybody was talking that shit. Like, from his son to Lex. Like, everybody, I felt bad for Clark in this episode. But share your questions down below, and we'll continue to talk about it. Check out my Flash movie review, which is on my channel. The Flash, movie review was up. I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it, and it's a nice little 30-minute, 27-minute show. So check it out. Like, subscribe, all that goodness. Check out my Warrior review at the end of the month when Warrior comes out, because we're going to review Warrior. And for you Marvel fans, we're doing Secret Invasion when Secret Invasion already dropped, and I'm going to do a review for that too as we wait for next week to the season finale of Superman and Lois. So that was it, guys. So until next week, I hope the as always.